Here's a big long word, emancipation. Emancipation may be a word you've heard before, and we'll get to an example in a moment. Emancipation means the act of setting someone free, like a slave. And emancipation laws were set up in the North in some of the early years of this country. This little map shows you some specifics, and you can pause if you want. Oh, look, it's gone. So emancipation could be done by law. Sometimes it was done by the owner of a slave, like in their will after death. I mean, death of the owner, not death of the slave, because that wouldn't make sense. And this was somewhat common in the 1700s. Here's a look at George Washington's will. He famously set his slaves free. In the document after he died, it said, "My slaves will be set free." Well, but not right away, not until after his wife's death. So that's why he doesn't get total credit for that one. But that's emancipating. After the 1820s, this becomes very, very rare, and some states even made it illegal. Here's that famous one I was mentioning. Here's a fancy display of the Emancipation Proclamation. So this is when Abraham Lincoln requires this by law. We'll get to that in a separate lesson here because that's a bit more complicated than you might think. So basically, emancipating is saying you were personal property, you were a slave, but now you own yourself. Uh, that's what emancipation basically means. It's different from abolition, which we'll get to next. And here we have it, abolitionism, coming from the word abolish, as in to destroy a system, to abolish a system, to destroy it. So abolitionism is this belief right here that slavery must be just outlawed, must become officially illegal everywhere. Get it out of here. Break all those chains for everybody. So this is coming from a couple of inspirations, like other reform movements. This anti-slavery movement is coming from the idea of equality. It also has some religious parts as well. Exodus is the part of the Bible about the Moses leading the slaves out of Egypt. So that's an anti-slavery part. Jesus in the New Testament has some anti-slavery messages, and the Great Awakening had this whole anyone can be saved kind of message. So that also got some people into abolitionism. So I see how this is different from emancipation that said uh, that you're no longer, you were property, now you're not. This is the idea that no human should be able to be property. Everyone owns themselves. And the law should reflect that. No more slaves anywhere in this world. There were disagreements, though, about the best speed and the best method, how this should be accomplished, and that gets us to the last term here. And that term is colonization, which has a different kind of meaning in the 1800s. This isn't like British colonies making areas in the Americas for resources. This is different. This was an idea to send all freed blacks, everyone who's not a slave anymore, send them to Africa. And the US government actually ends up creating a colony called Liberia, coming from the word liberty, and that's where it would be on the map. So the idea is get them back on get them on boats and send them back to the continent that their ancestors had come from. So there are a couple of ideas behind this, or a few ideas. Avoid black versus white kind of conflict that was going on, and competing for jobs that whites and blacks might have been competing for. And there was an idea this could make abolitionism more popular. Perhaps. I mean, who would like or hate this idea? Actually, that's what the crash course video is going to get into, and we can discuss some of this in class as well. This is a very controversial idea.